Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. We're here live from the Chantilly, Virginia studios at Kardec Radio. And we are going to talk about a most special book that was just released, The Fourth Dimensional Healing by Randi Botnick. Randi Botnick, her website is randibotnick.com, RANDIBOTNICK.com. She has been a healing worker, and she works also with spiritual counseling, and a very interesting work she has been promoting in upstate Baltimore. It's the Baltimore County area. She works with her husband, Brian Senderoff, who is a renowned holistic pharmacist in Maryland, in the greater Baltimore, Washington area. And they have been doing wonderful work. She's going to be here today talking about her recent book. And we are happy that you'll be joining us. So feel free to ask your question or make your comment by calling us at 858-769-4705, or the other option is logging in at the Kardec Radio channel at blogtalkradio.com. In the very program, we have a chat room, and we'll be able to talk to you from there. By the way, hi Jay from Canada. It's good to see you here again today. I know John DeRose is also listening to us. Thank you, John. And feel free, dear friends, and whomever else is here live, to ask your question or make your comment. It enriches the program all the more and actually helps many, many people. So, we are already in December. 2015 is almost gone. Many people are very distraught by the facts that have been happening in the United States and around the world. The current San Bernardino massacre is really astounding, and we are shocked, very sad. Would like to address this to the listeners. Many listeners have been asking us about the Spiritist take on it, and I'm going to share it with you right after the message we're going to share here in the very first part of the program. And then I'm going to also ask Randi Botnick to lead us into the understanding of her book, Fourth Dimensional Healing. Okay? All right, dear listeners. So right now, let us stream the very message, Fruitful Prayer. Right after this, we'll be talking to you much more.
Chapter 14, Fruitful Prayer.
Prayer is for the soul what bread is for the body. To pray is to open oneself unreservedly to God. To pray is not just to list a number of requests and supplications. Instead, it should be a thanksgiving for the gift of life. When you pray, you establish a link with the whole creation. Silent prayer is better than verbal prayer because words create visual symbols that may interfere with your inner aspirations. When you pray, you identify yourself with the Father and all His other children everywhere. You should pray as naturally as you feed yourself. True prayer is an inner communion between you and God. When men and women become aware of the power of prayer and the boundless positive energies that flood through it, nonviolence and understanding will govern communities and nations, furthering peace to all. Prayer is the language that inspires the spirit and opens doors to higher perception. No one who wants personal perfection will succeed without prayer. Prayer picks up those who have fallen, soothes our anxieties, and teaches us to forgive others. Prayer should be the prelude to all human actions, since it fortifies the soul and enables it to overcome any difficulties. feed your physical body with food. Feed your soul with prayer. Without prayer, your inner link with God will be hampered. Prayer should be your joy. It will help you to face your many battles. The vibrations of prayer bewilders the sinner and helps them to awaken to reason. Prayer inspires noble souls to join forces to assist others. Without prayer, the soul withers like a plant without water. Pray as much as you can. Moreover, try and make your daily life an act of wordless prayer. Jesus taught that to pray is to attune to God and to the whole humanity. It is to soar above your fellow man and still be linked to them. Gandhi surprised the world with his praying. He helped to liberate his people from political bondage and taught them that with prayer they would find the way to happiness, to spiritual growth, and to inner freedom.
Yes, inner freedom, dear listener, and that's the very words we just heard from Joanna De Angelis. And as I said at the very first part of the program, many people ask us to address about the current events in San Bernardino, California. And we can tell you, dear listener, that we're living in a transitory moment in our society. And it's very challenging. But creating fear and letting it escalate is going to be worse. If you read pages of the book No Solar by André Luiz through Chico Xavier, you're going to get to know that fear is the most negative, contagious emotion we can feel. So how do you counterbalance it? By trusting and having faith. Knowing that, there is a supreme command that allows us to have freedom, and we're given the freedom to choose what we want to do. Please do not buy guns thinking that you're going to protect yourself by doing so, because the reverse may happen. You never know if somebody else in the heat of an argument is going to use it, and you thought, I'm going to protect myself from terrorists. Please don't do this. That's very, very silly. Not to say, it's total ignorance by doing so. We shouldn't have guns in the first and foremost, because as Kardec says in the very book Genesis, when we think of doing something, we're halfway through it. You don't want to kill anyone, neither do I. So the best way to go is to pray and to help. If you have a colleague at work who you think is not doing well, needs help, go reach out. It's not about invading anybody's privacy when you really care about someone. Don't allow people to bully one another, because that can be very detrimental. So there are many ways in which we can prevent disasters of the nature. And one of the ways is helping one another. Mental illnesses are escalating also because people are not taking good care of themselves and one another. Physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's very fitting for the program today. We're going to talk about the Fourth Dimensional Healing book by Randi Botnick. And she's kindly fitting us in her schedule, and we are very, very grateful. And if you go to her website, as we said at the beginning, randibotnick.com, RANDIBOTNICK.com, you get to know more about her, the work she's been doing, and the books, classes, events, everything. She lives in the Baltimore County area, and she and her husband, the holistic pharmacist Brian Senderoff, have been doing a wonderful work at the Well-Being Center, and you're invited to visit them if you are in the area. They are doing simply wonderful. And Randi is here with us to talk about her book, and we hope that you can ask your question or make your comment wherever you are in this world. So let us say hello, Randi. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Vanessa. How are you today? Such a beautiful,
Wonderful.
I don't know I don't know where you are, but the weather here is gorgeous, sunny, brilliant. It's a gorgeous day.
And it's all the more special because you're here with us too, Randi. Thank you so much. We were just talking about the need of focusing ourselves in a, taking care of ourselves in a multidimensional scale. First and foremost, Randi, please tell us a little bit about the works you've been doing at the Wellbeing Center, please.
Sure. Well, my work is that of energy healing, and a lot of my clients over the years, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and a lot of my clients have asked what I do and if I teach what I do, and so I really started to try to devise a way to explain energy healing and how it works, and the recognition that we as human beings are energy beings. We are multidimensional, and it's very important to begin to understand the vastness of who we are and how our energy field holds information that can either feed us in a very positive way or feed us in a way that can make us ill or uncomfortable. And we want to be able to connect to that energy field so we can begin to shift what is uncomfortable and change it to allow ourselves to heal.
But that perception of ourselves as energy beings is so challenging because, especially in an era, Randi, in which we take selfies and it reinforces the focus on the physical only. How would you teach people to learn to feel themselves as an energy being, a spiritual being?
Well, it starts from a place of meditation and being very self-aware. And what I write in the book as well is about Western medicine and how Western medicine does exactly what you just said, which is it breaks us down into these tiny little pieces so that we feel as if we're completely disconnected. But through meditation and prayer and intuition, we can very much connect to greater aspects of ourselves that are multidimensional but vast. And we can connect to our higher self, which can give us information that we need to do all the healing that we need to do.
Exactly. And it's very interesting you're saying this because people are not aware usually, let's say the mainstream, that we are more than the physical body. So
right, exactly.
Right? And we tend to simply, if we have a headache, we go take a pill. If we have cramps, we go take another pill. And from pill to pill, people are becoming overdosed, like we see many cases in celebrities nowadays. So what would you say, Randi, would be, besides like the first steps of self-awareness and meditation, what else would you say that could shift the paradigm? As you say in the subtitle of your book, it's a guidebook for a new paradigm of healing. Can you tell us more about this new paradigm?
Yes, absolutely. I think that for a lot of people, intuition is beginning to open up and expand. And many people at first, when they're find their intuition and hear things or see things or have a perception of something that isn't specifically in front of them, they get scared. And a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. I don't know what's happening. I'm not sure about this. But if you can understand that it's a very, very natural state of being to begin to open up into the sixth level of sense and move out of just the five senses, which are very tied to our 3D reality. So the five senses are very tied to what is directly in front of us and what we perceive in the physical world. And yet the sixth sense is opening up to many other ways of being connected to each other and to the planet and to our higher knowledge. And so if we can, when we get intuitive hits, be very clear that they're real and understand that that is just a new way of connecting, we can begin then to safely trust all the other awareness that comes with that.
Exactly. And many people say we're living in an era of intuition. But for those who are listening to us, not necessarily we have common ground, on the definition of intuition. What is it exactly, Randi?
Well, intuition can come in different forms. You can have intuition come from a sense of something being visual, like you can see something that isn't directly in front of you. You can see it in your mind's eye. You can hear something, like having a dismembered voice in your ear, or a sound that comes to you, or a word that's repeated over and over again. You can have just an automatic knowing of something that just shows up and just, suddenly you get it. Or some people even smell smells that aren't readily there, and they start beginning to view the world from this sense of smell. And so intuition comes at us from all these different sort of extrasensory ways. But really what it is that we are feeling and understanding our connection more and more and more. And I neglected to talk about feeling as well, being empathic, feeling other people's emotions or a sense of energy in the room, the change in vibration. Many people can feel that. And again, it's just that our senses are becoming more heightened to how we are connected. And that is how I define intuition.
Yes, that's very interesting. But would you say that some people may be troubled for not knowing what to do with it?
Yes, absolutely. As I said, I've heard people feel like maybe they think that they're crazy or that something's wrong because they're picking up the information. And so again, if we begin to understand that this is a very natural process of expansion, then we can begin to feel safe and enjoy this newfound sense of information that's coming through.
Exactly. So, Randi, we're going to give a very short break, but when we come back, we'd like to go deeper into what you proposed in the Fourth Dimensional Healing book. And we also have already a listener from Canada who'd like to share something, potentially ask a question, okay?
Excellent. Thank you.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Hey kids!
Did you know that Kardec Radio is now for you?
We, Mark,
and Carol,
are going to tell you the most beautiful, exciting, fun stories ever.
All with messages of love and hope that will make your heart smile.
Tune in to Kardec Radio Mondays beginning October 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for
Stories from the Heart at Kardec Radio for Kids.
Of course, if you miss us, you can always find us on demand at kardecradio.com.
If you like our stories, write to us or send your drawings to kardecforkids@gmail.com.
We can't wait to see you then.
Bye.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on any previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand section of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website at www.kardecradio.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Help prevent suicide by reading and sharing these books with others. 2 great books are available to help in this Kardec Radio campaign to prevent suicide. Suicide, All You Need to Know, by the international Spiritist speaker Richard Simonetti. You can buy your copy at www.roundtablepublishing.com. uk.com. Also, Memoirs of a Suicide by the medium Yvonne Pereda. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Kardec Radio now offers more programs during the week and weekends. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can follow the beautiful program God at Home with Francisca Kranz and the British Spiritist community. They will brighten your days by doing a God at Home meeting wherever you are in the world, while teaching you how to do the same in your own home with your family and friends. Every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will hear incredibly inspirational Spiritist talks directly broadcasted by Spiritist Network. They will be true educational moments to carry out to immortality. Every Saturday, live interviews, Bridging Health and Spiritism with the host Dr. Vanessa Anceloni. You may ask questions to the interviewed guests by calling 858-769-4705. And every Sunday, tune in the Spiritist Awareness at Kardec Radio. You will hear a series of segments on a diversity of Spiritist topics. Kardec will broadcast the Spiritist Moment with Kirsten DeMello, the reading of the Spiritist book by John DeRosa and Steve Shepard, Spiritism in Your Life with Drs. Marco and Joyce Magalhães, Spiritism and the Gospel with Luis Sergio Marotta, Spiritist Education for Youth and Children with Bernadette Leal, Spiritist Music with James Marotta, Neuroscience and Spiritism with Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, and many more segments coming soon. Enjoy it all and nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
And now we return to our program.
Yes, dear listener, we're back, and we're here with Randi Botnick and her latest book, The Fourth Dimensional Healing. In her book, which is so smooth in the writing, it just flows, it's so invitational. Please acquire it, read it, give it as a gift. This is the best time of the year to think about helping people out. And a book like this can be very transformative. Randi, you begin your book in the first chapter, The Great Awakening, which, by the way, is a very invitational title, saying that a great shift is taking place on our planet. The Earth's energy is rising in vibration. We are all feeling it at some level, from the subtlest sense of a general discomfort with daily life to the most astonishing emergence of new psychic and paranormal gifts. Now, with the current events in the United States and many countries around the world, how would you fit in that explanation that you give with the current event, for example, in California, San Bernardino?
Well, that is such a difficult question because, of course, there's no way to make sense of that sort of horror. But I will say that I do believe that as the energies are rising, I heard you say earlier in the show that people are becoming more psychotic, like that those energies of psychosis are beginning to rise, and we do see more and more of that. And that's because people who have not cleared the path for themselves, this path of growth, through their own inner work, through their own inner healing, are becoming very off-center and off-balance from these new higher vibrations. And they're doing crazy things. And they're expressing outwardly what's going on sort of underneath the surface of much of humanity, which is our own levels of anger and frustration and grief and fear. And that exists within all of us to some extent. And those of us who are clearing it for ourselves are in a much safer place. And those of us who are not clearing it are finding that as it rises to the surface, like, it's sort of being lifted up to the surface to be cleared, but instead of clearing it, they're acting it out.
Mm-hmm.
Very unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. And as you talk about treating ourselves multidimensionally, in your second chapter, there's so many interesting things in your book, and you say of many things I could quote here to the listener, but one of them that fits in your comment so we can extend a little more. The soul incarnates into this body at this time to experience specific situations and challenges. Please tell us more about this. In Spiritism, we talk about reincarnatory plan. Can you elaborate a little more so the listener understands what happens to us when we reincarnate, please?
Sure. So as we incarnate, each incarnation, we do accept different challenges in each lifetime. And oftentimes, and we do that for our own soul growth. The soul has no tie or judgment towards any experience. It's just an experience. But the soul wants to simulate as many experiences as possible. And in this way, we become more and more compassionate towards everyone when we know that we've had an experience that potentially we have been the perpetrator of a crime in one lifetime and the victim in another. We build up our ability for compassion for everybody on the planet. And when we work through a lifetime or move through a lifetime, but we haven't fully progressed through the challenge that we were trying to work through, sometimes we bring it into the next lifetime to work through it again. And so we come into this lifetime and we choose the parents that we have in order for them to set up certain situations so that the challenges are put in front of us. And we pick our bodies, we pick our interests, we pick our friends. All of these different things are on a soul level happening. They're soul contracts, they're agreements. And the life that we live is that of working into these challenges and then working out of them. And that is where the growth happens. And so if we look at our experiences not as situations that victimize us, but situations that are put in front of us for us to make choices about, we then have a very rich life. Our life expands in wonderful ways.
And it's interesting because there is one book named The Messengers in which André Luiz talks about cases of people who had their spiritual contracts or reincarnatory plan. They were trained and supposed to go through that reincarnation in specific challenges and overcoming them. They had the tools before they reincarnated to perform what they need to perform. But many of them actually failed, either because of excessive vanity or too much, other types of egotistic features and so many other things, selfishness, etc. So what would you say would be the greatest challenges, according to your experience as a therapist as well? What are the greatest impediments that you see that have been happening to us regarding the fulfillment of our spiritual contracts?
That's a great question, because in that book, The Messengers, what he's describing is how our ego, which is our personality, it's not ego in terms of egotism, but how our personality gets in the way of our spiritual contracts sometimes, and that's because our ego is very tied to the third dimensional reality, which is everything we see in front of us. It all feels so very, very real. And I think in my practice, what I've seen is the greatest impediment is people feeling very victimized by their situation and feeling powerless in their own ability to heal or change. And that's the greatest place where people get stuck, because once you feel powerless, you've, in an essence, given up. And you also believe that other people have more power than you do. And again, that just puts you in a position of, of not moving forward in any way and feeling very helpless.
Yes, that's very interesting. The mindset of, feeling like a victim and consequently feeling powerless. So you in your book propose in the new paradigm that, as you say in one sentence, healing happens in layers. So how would then somebody who is in that state of mind, victimizing themselves, how would you then say the healing would begin?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and there are probably different answers for everybody. But I would say, in my book, towards the end of the book, there are processes for people to try at home. And they go through self-care, mental clearing, emotional clearing, and then energetic clearing. And I think that's really the way that I would work with somebody myself, is to start looking at, okay, how can the person take better care of self so that they become more, have more of an expanded awareness instead of the one very narrow belief system of victimization or helplessness. And so we want to begin to expand the awareness. And then clearing old thoughts, clearing old belief systems that are holding them in the place that they are, beginning to help people relax and feel more in a place of happiness. I don't want to say joy. Joy is a hard thing for many, many people to reach, but at least a sense of relief and comfort we're going for. And then moving into more of the deeper work of clearing and opening up the energy field more and more and more, beginning to pull out of the energy field the old thought forms and wounds that we carry.
So let me ask you a question that was sent by us by email by a listener named Pat. Pat says that she has a husband who she loves, but he's bipolar, and she has a daughter. And she says, I'm just summing up because it's a little bit long. So the summary is, she says that they have their ups and downs because of the bipolarity. So they have an agreement today, and then tomorrow everything, changes again. And she feels so hopeless that she's ever going to be able to establish a harmonious family life because of the ups and downs of the bipolarity of her husband, who, by the way, does not find any help for himself. So in this case, what can she what would be your advice for her?
The answer might be a little bit of a difficult one, but let me say this. The more that she can take care of herself in whatever way that looks, in however that feels right for her, the better. And the more release expectations, the better. So expectations take on two different forms. One is that there can be an expectation of what is normal or what is the right way. So we need to release that completely, because in Pat's home, there's no right way. It she has in her head of the way things are supposed to be needs to just be erased. The other way that expectations show up is that we use them to repeat the past. And so often we have an expectation that, this is not going to change. This is going to be the same all the time. It was like this last time, so it's going to be like this next time. That expectation also needs to be erased, because that holds a vibration of keeping the pattern in place. And if we can release that pattern, there's actually opportunity and hope for something to be different. So the more Pat can come into her life situation and her home from a place of awareness and openness, the more opportunity there is for something to feel like it's moving well and in the right direction.
Mm.
The way we do this, though, is through constant clearing and constant awareness of our thoughts. You know, this isn't something that can easily happen overnight, but it's a retraining of the mind, of how we're perceiving things in front of us. And again, I'm going to repeat something else from the book, which is that our reality is very much created by our perceptions, not the other way around. And so when we change our perceptions from those of expectation and judgment to those of awareness and just seeing what falls in front of us, we can then begin to see reality shifting.
It's very interesting you're saying this. And as we're talking about patterns, I would like to connect with a comment that Jay from Canada, he's here with us at the Blog Talk Radio chat room, and he's saying something that you made a comment before, and I think it can be tied back into what you're saying now. People having energy signatures, he's saying. He heard about it in a program, and now he's sharing this with us. So when you talk about healing, we're talking about changing our vibratory patterns. And as you mentioned here, we are electrical beings. We're made of energy, pure light, and cloaked in matter that looks and feels like real solid material. It's beautiful. And so we have our patterns. We could say like we have energy signatures. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And do you think it's possible to change that in one life?
I do, and I think that that's the whole point of this, is that we can change all that. I think that we can grow and shift whatever isn't working for us because, you know, in this time that we are in right now, we are more connected to our higher selves and the power within our higher selves than ever before. And what we have forgotten over the eons that human beings have been on this planet is that we literally create everything that we are experiencing. We are so powerful in who we are, and we have so completely been blinded to that for a very long time. And so through understanding ourselves as multidimensional, meaning that our energy fields are vast and our bodies exist inside of our energy, not the other way around, we can take control of every aspect of our life whenever we decide to and start to shift. And we do that through, first of all, releasing the expectations that the past has to repeat itself. And I'm going to say that again, release the expectation that the past has to repeat itself, because it does not. That is just a pattern, and we can let go of that pattern at any moment. And second of all, open ourselves to the idea that something more wonderful can happen. That's the next piece. And it doesn't have to be what you think necessarily it's supposed to be, but it can still be something wonderful and different.
Exactly. And sometimes we don't know what's best for us either, so we like that life surprises us with things that are even better than we imagined.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's very interesting. I want to remind the listener, Randi, that, you know, when I look at the table of contents, just to give them an idea, chapters, just the titles of the chapters: The Great Awakening, The Multidimensionality of Health, The Human Being as Energy Being, The Spiritual Healing Team, which is fascinating, Anatomy of Healing Session, Facilitating a Fourth Dimensional Healing Session, Clearing Trauma, Self-Care, Mind-Body Practices, Emotional Release Processes, Energy Release Processes, and the nuts and bolts of a healing practice. So comprehensive at the same time, but so easy to go through the chapters. And I found, Randi, so many. I didn't do a deep study on it because of time, but from what I've reading the book, I could find so many intersections with the Spiritist teachings, and I think this is another very fascinating topic because, it's the universality of the truth. It's so beautiful, and I would recommend to all the listeners to buy this book and immerse yourself in this proposal. We all know that there are visionary minds and human beings around the world, like Randi Botnick, like Brian Sanderoff, and many others, who are pushing for a shift in the way we treat ourselves and care for others. Healthcare is in a deep crisis now, and it's beyond just health insurance problems. So, how would you say, in that regard, Randi, how would you say the new proposal you published in this book can help us get out of the crisis in healthcare nowadays?
Well, one of the ways is to understand that our health is a manifestation of our thoughts. And so we can go to the doctor and find relief from illness and disease and pain and mental illness and all of that. We can, because medicine has come very far to help us. However, Western medicine specifically tends to want to mask symptoms, or what they would say cure symptoms. That doesn't necessarily take care of any core issue that is creating the illness or disease in the body. And as we look at ourselves more multidimensionally, and we look at our beliefs and our expectations and our thoughts and our wounds, the trauma that we carry in our bodies, when we really begin to heal from those places of the very depths of who we are, that is when the body and the mind can heal permanently. And so Western medicine is wonderful, and I'm going to quote Brian Sanderoff, and I feel the same way when I say that if I break my leg, I'm going to the emergency room. I'm not going to necessarily think that I can heal my leg completely by doing nothing or by praying, although I do think that works, but I would go to the emergency room, But Western medicine does not deal with chronic illness well at all. It just doesn't know how to come about it and how to work with it. And illness that is more chronic rather than acute or very, a specific accident that's happened, does stem from these other places, the depth of our being. And so if we can begin to heal from that level, then I think the need for as much insurance and medication as we're all taking can decrease.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, unfortunately, allopathic medicine is not good at preventing any of this either. So prevention is so vital. And I remember Brian Sanderoff talking so much about the importance of prevention, and the current, the traditional medicine pathway doesn't go there very much. Randi, we need to give just a short break before we go to the final part of our program. And we have a listener who is on the line and would like to ask you a question. Let me just go to this break, and when I come back in a few minutes, like 2 minutes, we will open the line for the listener to talk to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Books of Andre Luis. Through the hands of the most prolific medium of all times, Chico Javier, the spirit doctor Andre Luis wrote a series of books that unveil the mechanisms of life and life after life. From the best-selling novel No Solar, Our Home, to And Life Goes On, the reader will find illumination for a fulfilled life on Earth as well as immortal happiness. Check the many titles available at the international distributor, EDI CEI of America. Their website is www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Spiritist Network, your gateway to on-demand Spiritist videos. www.spiritistnetwork.com.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio. Traveling to another country? Immigrating elsewhere? Prepare yourself by reading the book Among Brothers of Other Lands, in which several loving and wise spirits wrote through the hands of Chico Xavier and Waldo Vieira, telling all of us the tips and hints of a successful transition to a new land. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Do you want Spiritist books for your children? At Edicei of America, you'll find a collection of them, from the best-selling book Our Father, in which the Spirit Mei Mei, through Chico Xavier, brought countless poems, stories, and folk tales based on the Lord's Prayer, to the beautiful and educational collection by the author Eda Wilson Salles on Back to School and many others. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
And now we return to our program.
Yes, dear listener, we're enjoying very much this program, and it's a joy to talk to Randi Botnick. By the way, go to her website, randibotnick.com, and also to the website of their healing center, Brian Senderoff and Randi Botnick's well-being, gps.com. It's a beautiful practice. You're wonderful people. Randi, the person whom we thought had a question actually was just listening to us, but as we march towards the wrapping up of the program today, we would like to know more about how people can begin their new paradigm in their self-care. Sometimes, depending on where they are living, Randi, they don't have a healing center like the ones that you and Brian put together, and they don't have many options. Would you say there is a way for them to start it by themselves?
Absolutely. And because everybody has the ability to connect to their higher self, and that's really the first step, is to practice meditation and prayer. And through meditation and prayer, you'll be led to books that you might like to read, to podcasts and radio shows, and to your own healing as well. I have found that as I do healings on people, their lives start opening up and they begin to attract towards themselves everything that they need to begin to shift and grow. And so anybody can do that, and you can start from the most basic level of closing your eyes and spending 5 minutes with yourself once or twice a day. Meditation doesn't have to look like sitting quietly for an hour, but it does have to include a sense of quietness and the willingness to be with yourself. And a lot of times when people begin that process, they have a lot of feelings coming up, a lot of emotions. They may cry or feel scared or furious at someone or feel like they can't forgive. And those are all very natural feelings to experience and very normal. And the more we can allow ourselves to sit in those places of discomfort, the more those begin to clear for us, and it opens the door for other possibilities.
That's
and all of these are wonderful ways to begin.
That's interesting. And Randi, there's a listener who sent us a message here on Facebook. Kardec Radio has a Facebook page, and is asking whether or not they can engage with you in a therapeutic session, if possible, online, if they are not living in the Baltimore County area.
Yes, absolutely. So I do phone sessions, and I can also Skype with people. Yes, and so it's very easy to reach me through my website. My email address is Randi@randibotnick.com, and that's Randi with an I. and
Uh-huh.
it's botnick.com, or by calling me. And can I give my phone number over the air?
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So my phone number is area code 443-621-059. And it's very simple to do these sessions over the phone or long distance, because when we begin to understand ourselves from an energetic standpoint, we realize that there's no time and no space that needs to be crossed, but that we're connected all the time.
Exactly.
And we don't have to be in the same room. Yeah.
All right. That's wonderful. So we are very appreciative of your time and fitting us in, almost like last minute because of our mistakes here at Kardec Radio. So we thank you very much for being with us today and for Brian's support all the way. And if you have any final message you'd like to share with the listener who is now listening to us and will potentially listen on demand as well, please.
Absolutely. And so I think my final message is to remember that we are the creators of our lives. You had said this so perfectly at the beginning of the hour, Vanessa. We are the creators of what is in front of us at any given moment. And if we don't like what we see, if we don't like what we feel, we have the ability to change it. None of this is happening as a punishment or because we're victims of our situations. None of it. And so as we remember ourselves to be the powerful beings that we really are on every level, then we can begin to have lives that reflect what we truly want rather than what our fears are reflecting.
Yes, that's beautiful. We're not defined by the passing moment. Thank you again and again. Please receive our virtual hug of gratitude for your beautiful book, for the work you do, for the time here with us. Thank you, Randi. Thank you.
Thank you, too. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. And we are always here. Whenever something new is coming up, please count on us at Kardec Radio, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you. So, dear listener, remember the website, randybotnick.com, the book we discussed, fascinating book, just released, Fourth Dimensional Healing, and you can find it at Amazon.com, anywhere. And it's a book that can really free us. We started the program today talking about inner freedom, and we end talking about inner freedom. Many people think that they're going to be freer by buying a gun, protecting themselves in a very military way, and we tell you that's the reverse. You're going to imprison yourself and a loved one. You don't want to go there. Let's do the reverse, dear listener. We're living at a critical time when people have higher awareness. You're being called to be proactive. Go and reach out. Do not be afraid. Remember, everyone is a child of God. We're all at different levels of evolution, but it's in God's hands to decide where we are. It's up to us to make choices. Let's make healthy choices, choices of love, choices of solidarity, because the world is suffering because we are not opening up to the flow of love. So, talking about the flow of love, we're going to wrap up the program today as we do every Saturday with a prayer. Let's dedicate this prayer to opening people up all the more, all of us, to the flow of God's love. Let us feel it, dear listener, and let us at this moment wish that these drops of love may be spread out through the planet, promoting healing, healing the wounds, healing the traumas, helping one another. We can help by praying. Dear Mother, Father God, we are truly grateful for you allowed us to be here in this program. We are grateful for this book that becomes true nourishment reference for our souls, the fourth dimensional healing. May Randi Botnick and Brian Senderoff, their loved ones, continue their mission on the earth, helping us and everyone around. And we hope that this prayer benefits all the people and the beings in general, including plants and animals in our planet. Helping especially those who are in need, suffering. May they feel a loving embrace, the closeness of a helping hand. May new hope sprout in their hearts. May they feel encouraged, strengthened to stand up tall and keep marching towards their beautiful destiny, created by God, which is to achieve wellness in all dimensions. And so be it. Dear listener, we thank you again and again for your presence, for your help, and for all of you who write emails to Kardec Radio and send Facebook messages. Thank you again and again for your support, for your help, for your suggestions, for everything. Remember, in a week from today, we're going to talk about teaching cooperation to kids. That's one of the ways we can change the world, by helping the new generation. And Christina Cabral from Connecticut is going to be here with us talking about her latest book, Peter the Caterpillar. It's beautiful. She's a wonderful educator who has been doing so much, and finally she published this book that can help so many. So join us at Kardec Radio, because we have programs throughout the week. Remember, KardecRadio.com has lots of resources for you, for me, for everyone. In the meantime, what do we do, dear listener? Let's keep feeling the blessings of God always. Many blessings.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.